Episode 5, spoiler talk. Now we can talk about all those things we wanted to say that we had to hold off and not talk about on the last episode, our spoiler-free preview episode. We're coming back now. We're going full spoilers. So, just want to say one more time, because this was a pretty big deal episode. We are probably like mid-season. It's 9 episodes. I heard there's talk of maybe a 10th episode, a secret episode or something. Don't know how true that is. I wouldn't bank on it. But it wasn't We Got This Covered, so it was just some conversation, some chatter. One of those reveals that came through with the credits. It was an in credits revealed kind of thing. Somebody has been credited. Somebody who does the voice for another character has been credited with 2 episodes. I think it was like episodes 4 and episode 10. But there's only 9 episodes, so like maybe that episode got cut. I don't know. But that's a nice little spoiler tidbit, you know, as I've talked about how the end credits give stuff away. I'm beginning to think Marvel does that shit on purpose. I'm gonna just throw it out there. Like, I know it's kind of like something that comes because they're talking about the other languages, because it's like the Espanol voice actors and then the like German voice actors, and then they have to put those different people in the credits. But it's kind of helped me clue in and go back and check different things that I would have missed otherwise. So now that I've already gone into this nice little open rant by myself, like I'm the only one here.
I know we're just waiting around.
Per usual.
But you know what? Yeah, I'm not gonna do it this time. I'm gonna do right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, geeks of all ages, we want to thank you for joining us. We are Grown A Geeks. We are doing our Wandavision episode 5 spoiler recap. We are going to cover whatever the hell we want that has to do with the spoilers of Wandavision, primarily focusing on episode 5. But a lot of shit went back to previous episodes, so that might get brought up too. Joining me today, and actually I'm going to say I am joined by others. I joined them. They were here, and I decided to hop on with they asses. We've got Jeffrey here, so me and Jeff are going to kind of sit back as best we can.
No, they won't.
They really won't.
Well, that's why I'm getting it all out now, right at the beginning. Everything I wanted to say. No, Jeff is here with me. He's going to sit back with me, and I'm going to encourage him to do that. Speak when you need to. But special guest, I'm going to throw it out like that. I'm going to tease her a little bit. We got Denisha, one of our admins. She's back with us. You might know her from our Top 5 series. That was like one of her brainchilds, and it was awesome. So make sure you check out that Top 5 playlist, because we went through a shit ton of movies, and we had some great picks, some unique misses, and some interesting conversation. So our Top 5 series, definitely worth a watch and have some great picks. Also joining us, we have Brent. Y'all know Brent from Gag on These Balls. He does our sports podcast, and he's a regular on all of the other Gag shows. I think Top 5 might be the only one you weren't on. So
it conflicted with my work schedule. That was the only reason. I would have loved to join y'all.
It is all good. We appreciate everything you do. So make sure you check out Gag on These Balls. That is our sports podcast. We got the Super Bowl coming up, and so you will probably get this video a little bit earlier. Just want to say, I haven't decided if we're going to drop it on Sunday and compete with the Super Bowl or just let it roll on Monday like normal. But either way, we had to record early so as not to conflict with Super Bowl, since some people in the world apparently want to watch this sports ball game. Also joining us, per usual, my homie, my ride or die, that's my man. We got Will. He's with us today. And Will's got on his Spider-Man, repping his Marvel as he always does. I did good today with my Marvel representation. You all who are listening can't see it, but I went out and got me a brand new Captain America shirt. We got the Wakanda Forever over there, looking like the Wu-Tang. I seen it.
I think that's our shirt, Sam.
Is it? You know what? I was looking. I will
Brent's
say,
like, me too.
Like 3-4 tags, and finally I decided this was the one I was gonna get. I liked it, and I didn't see none of them. I didn't like none of the Star Wars shirts they had, and nothing.
Target.
Nothing's Kohl's.
Kohl's, yeah, that's ours.
Bet. I'm happy as hell. I picked the right one. But yeah, all the Star Wars shirts I saw, I was like, I ain't really feeling that. Skip. And it was like 2 for $20. My wife wanted a shirt. I was like, okay, I'll get this one. And this is the one that I landed on. So shout out to Mad Injured for another banging ass shirt. I be trying to make sure. I literally put shit back if it don't say mad edges sometimes. So
Me too.
I done got real spoiled
put
about
stuff-
that shit. Like,
I'll be putting stuff under the pile.
no sabotage. Anyway, so WandaVision episode 5. Is everybody like? Are you all as thrilled as I am about everything you've seen so far? Was that
Considering
big?
where I started, I am
Yes.
ecstatic.
Complete 180 for sure.
That's what's
I
up.
fucking told y'all it's going.
Marvel grabbed me by the back of the head and started smacking me around. It's like, look, you're gonna love me and you're gonna like it. And
I think honestly,
now.
this episode was the one for a lot of people that was just like, if somehow you got to 5 and you weren't like completely sucked in and all in, this was the episode that was really like a slap in the face wake up call and be like, either this shit is for you or you have not seen anything else we've ever done. Like, that shit says Marvel. What is you worried about? Marvel. Like, why was you... Kevin Feige is still over this shit. You should have been okay from jump.
I'm
I will apologize to the
worried.
Overlord.
I just
Feige.
didn't like him. That's so loud. You were
Because I was
allowed
gonna say,
to
there's
not
a couple
like the first
movies
2
along
episodes.
the way
I will-
that were
you know what?
kind of.
You were
Anybody-
allowed to go, what the
Anybody
hell
is
is happening?
absolutely allowed to say, I don't like this. This is not for me. I don't
Just
want
don't
this.
say the word trash.
You know, because nothing in those 2 episodes was that. So it did
You
not
were allowed to
require-
go, okay, this is cute. I know this is going somewhere, but you were
I
allowed
don't like the direction. I don't like the
don't like
setup.
this right now. We have been starved for Marvel things. And
And
so
I-
for this to be the first thing that kind of came out, we were like, what the hell is this?
And honestly, I think that's really what it is more than anything. I think the fact that we're coming off of Endgame, essentially, and going into this.
Yeah.
We just had some of the most climactic moments in Marvel cinema. And we go to a 30-minute sitcom that looks like the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Yeah.
If that,
And in
I
fairness-
can't
Remember,
in fairness-
we didn't
in fair-
start at Endgame though. We have to remember how
True.
we have to start again. We have to get
And
excited again. I
and
wasn't as excited with Iron
We
Man,
got spoiled.
as I was with the third one. Like we have to understand all of this is starting again.
yeah.
And I think, in fairness to Marvel, this was not supposed to be the first thing we got after Endgame. It was supposed to be Black Widow,
Hmm.
Winter
If that ever comes
Soldier,
out.
Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then WandaVision. But due to the pandemic, things got
They had to
pushed.
change some
Because
stuff.
they
Things
still
got
haven't
shifted
released that
around.
movie.
And yeah, and
Kind of
yeah.
don't care anymore.
I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna go into detail about like all that stuff, but I do get the whole like, you know, we've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and then y'all came with like Dick Van Dyke and and you know,
I
I think
appreciated
too-
it. I came from watch like I love Nick at Night, like that's my jam. But I think people should have been allowed to really not like those 2 episodes. And they knew what they were doing. They knew a lot of people were not going to receive that very well. And they were like,
well, I think that's why they released both of them. Because
yeah,
if they would have released
Get
like
this out
episode
the way
1,
and be done with it.
it would have been like, what is this? But I
but
think they
us who
knew
really
that.
love Marvel, we knew something was coming. Something was
No,
going to get better.
honestly,
But I did not like the first 2 episodes. It
I
felt
think
like
Jeff
And I
hit it
think
on the
too-
head just
time.
then. I'd never thought about that. I think you hit it on the head with the release of episodes 1 and 2 right there together. As I've already mentioned, and as you've mentioned, if you think of it in terms of a miniseries and you have the different parts, by releasing, most people who watch anything on Netflix or Hulu or whatever the case may be, unless you're watching a series that's already been out like The Office or Parks and Recs or, you know, Brooklyn Nine-Nine or whatever the case may be. If you're watching a show like that, yeah, it's 30 minutes, 22 minutes even on Netflix. But generally speaking, like a lot of your original streaming series, the runtime is an hour. So when you first sit down to watch WandaVision and you have episodes 1 and 2 right there together, you can sit that full hour no matter what it looks like. You can sit that full hour, so you can automatically get through episodes 1 and 2. And because you did that on day 1, that following week, it doesn't feel like you're going into the 3rd episode. it only feels like you're in the second episode.
Yeah, because the first 2 episodes, we got the time jump happening. We got, it's a little, we got, it's going, something's happening. It's going somewhere. We're not going to stay in this place. But yeah, especially when you're dealing with like a mystery type thing, those are normally an hour.
Yeah.
Get away with murder and all of that. It's an hour.
I think people also just are impatient. And it goes back to what we talked about last time, where binge culture, which, this is not me talking down on people who binge watch stuff, because I binge watch stuff too. All the Marvel stuff that was on Netflix, I watched that in 2 days, 3 days, easy. 10-hour long episodes. I watched Daredevil season 2 in one night because I started drawing and just lost track of time. And then next thing I knew, the sun was coming up and it was episode 9. I was like, well, I may as well finish it. But I don't know. I couldn't tell you now a synopsis of season 1 of Luke Cage versus season 2. I know who the villain is. I know who the bad guys
I
or
can
whatever.
say a synopsis. We have a coffee over here, and now we have a coffee over here.
Exactly. And
that is Luke Cage in a nutshell.
But with WandaVision, I think we've all kind of talked about because there is so much to digest, and because we're being given the space and the time to do it, we're appreciating it more. And I think that was super important because, we're going into phase 4. We're talking about magic. We're talking about parallel dimensions and multiverse and all these new things, just the same way we introduced the Infinity Stones slowly, one by one, introducing things that we didn't know were Infinity Stones, but eventually became Infinity Stones. For instance, the Tesseract. We saw the Tesseract in 3 or 4 movies before it was revealed that the Tesseract is actually an Infinity Stone. Loki Scepter. We saw him use that in multiple movies before it was revealed that it's an Infinity Stone. We got time to, whenever Marvel introduces something powerful, we get introduced to it. We kind of get to understand what the powers are, what it does, and then they reveal what it is. And I think they're treating Wanda with this show like an Infinity Stone. We don't know, we haven't known what her powers are. We could tap into all of our Marvel knowledge, our comic book knowledge, and we can make guesses, but Marvel has to put it on screen, and they have to figure out what they want to put on screen, what they don't want to put on screen, and when they want to put it on screen. Because like I said before, when she came out of the portal when she came down in Infinity War, when she came down from the bedside to beat people up, and then Okoye is why was she up there if she can do all that? And then in Endgame, when she basically Thanos was I will murder and blow up all of my own troops just to get her off me right now. I can't handle like whatever she's doing.
Yeah, Shotty had him straight hammed up.
For us, I'm like, hell yeah, like I know Wanda can like fuck people up like that, like because I've been waiting on it. But for people who have only experienced the MCU, they probably saw that and was like, whoa, like when was she able to like do all that? How come we haven't seen more of that? Yada yada yada. This show is an extension of that moment, in my opinion. Like, yeah, it's an extension of
right to the
people being wowed by her, and then them saying like, "Oh, you thought that was dope? Watch this. You thought that was cool? Like, you thought her being able to like basically beat Thanos' ass like solo was cool? Watch this. Like, she's so much more. She's so beyond that. But we still have to determine like what she is, because the possibilities of what she is are not endless, but like there's like a lot of possibilities. Mm-hmm. And they have to kind of factor in for like bringing in mutants and stuff and how they want to actually do that.
Well, see, even to your point about mutants, they because Marvel did not have the rights to use the term mutants, and Fox owned that. Fox did all the X-Men movies, and it's so crazy that we're going to talk about Fox and the X-Men because Evan Peters.
Later.
No, spoiler, we going to get to it. I just want to say it's crazy that you said that, but like they've never addressed Wanda as being a mutant. And what's really crazy is, of course, in the comics initially, she was daughter of Magneto, her brother. She and her brother Pietro, like they were twins, and the Maximoff twins. That's Magneto's kids. But even in the comics, they've gone as far to rewrite and retcon the characters to no longer even be mutants, but in fact to have Quicksilver be an Inhuman and Wanda basically just be a special magic enhanced witch. Like, and not even like she was born a witch. She just has this ability, and magic enhances said ability. So they've even taken her out of being a mutant there. And because she's actually been part of the Avengers, and Jeff, you mentioned this, I forget what show, how long ago, but as far as the licensing and whatnot, we was talking specifically about Wanda. And because Wanda has been an Avenger in the past, she falls through the loopholes of the Fox copyright, and she can be shown as an Avenger so long as they do not say the word mutant. And that's what they've done up to this point. So now that everything kind of falls back into being owned by Marvel, Marvel has the power to do whatever they want. And I love the very first thing they did to bridge all of these worlds.
We'll talk. We're going to be quiet.
That lasted all of 10 seconds. If
Yeah.
that.
So,
But now that we have the floor,
yeah.
Anisha, what are your thoughts on WandaVision episode 5?
See, now you got nothing to say. Like, speak up.
Will said nothing. It's just so funny. You literally like, and I'm going to encourage Jeff, and y'all just.
And then you just tangent off.
Yeah.
I'm gonna encourage
Yeah,
Jeff
that's
to
right.
not talk, and then he went
Jeff
off on a
spoke,
rant.
and then that's why I had to take over from Jeff so he would stop speaking. So
Yeah.
No.
Really? That's where we go.
that's my excuse. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. So, Denisha, what did you think? Episode 5.
I thought it was great.
What did you want to talk
I
about?
love that this was the first commercial that I actually got as I was watching it. I knew what was happening, so I was very excited about that because I'm not.
And that was that commercial. I mean, obviously, people are going to remember, but that commercial was the the Lagos paper towels.
Yes, cleaning up the mess.
Right down to the red
So dark.
juice on the corner,
Yeah,
on the counter. Like, what? We gotta wipe
Like,
up this red
oh,
juice.
remember when you killed all those innocent people? Remember that? Yeah. So.
Shots fired.
Yeah, I was very excited about that. But I thought it was a very good episode. Of course, the ending was great because like you saw what was happening, you saw the hair, but then the reveal, I was like, wait a minute. That panic kind of set in, like, what's happening? I don't even understand anymore. I like that we were really starting to peel back that Vision doesn't really know what's going on either. But then there's that question because she's like, I'm not doing this. That's not me. So we're like, well, wait a minute. But you just went outside the bubble. You threatening her to leave you alone, but then you're telling him this isn't you. So what does that really mean? Are you lying or are you telling the truth? What's happening? So
a bit of both, maybe. A bit of both. And there's a lot of theories floating around. Will, I know you got a handful of theories. See, I know y'all was worried. I started talking. I was scared.
Just like, no.
Will, I know you got a lot of theories. Let's hear about some of your theories as far as what we could be looking at. Or if you care to, do you want to give us your recap first, your episode 5 true feelings? Because I know on our spoiler free there wasn't a whole lot you could say. So now you're free to talk. What you got? Episode 5.
I think episode 5 was done really well. Like things are starting to make sense more and more to the characters experiencing the story. It's for that the ones who were watching is for that. I love looking at like the initial opening scenes for that when Agnes was in there. She's like, you want me to run it back? You want me to do it again? She was expecting the reset that Wanda didn't give, and so that it's like, okay, why didn't Wanda give the reset? What's going on? And I kind of attribute that to what's going on earlier in the show, so that with Herb or whatever breaking the wall, so that like she's starting to crack. So stuff is seeping in. She's not in full control anymore. So again, that's why I'm wondering, who's pulling the strings, who's and doing what influence, whatever the case may be. I don't know. It just always bugs me as I'm trying to figure this stuff out, because usually I can kind of throw my theories out there and kind of see what sticks. When you got people like, Jeffrey down there who just kind of stares and mugs so that, because I feel like he knows way more than he's letting on.
Actually, I don't know anything.
He's got a good poker
But see,
face.
He also
He's got a great
signs
poker
NDAs,
face.
so
He
if he
does.
does know,
Yeah.
he's not gonna tell
Yeah,
you.
he's
he
not gonna
knows.
tell nothing.
He can't tell
Because
you.
of
that.
Like,
But the story itself, again, all the setups and stuff are good. Everything going leading up to 5, so that really set the stage for what happened in 5. So that we're trying to figure out what's going on with the rewind. We're trying to figure out freaking how much is Vision going to come to realize with that. Who else is pulling strings? Why are people not affected by certain powers? The kids are like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
Like-
the kids are very interesting, and that whole scene with the dog, because you wonder why she's like, I can't do that, and it's like, but
you were doing it.
Did.
You've been doing it.
But see,
So-
that also that raises a couple of questions there, and that by itself, if I may, I just want to point out some things, and I'll let you all dissect it and give me your thoughts on it. I think one of the very first things, of course, is we get Monica Rambeau. She comes out of the bubble for the first time, and she's like, "It's Wanda. It's all Wanda." We have the reveal of Vision unlocking Herb, essentially, and Herb then talks about needing to see his sister and his father being ill. And he literally has no clue what's going on. And the first thing he says is like, you have to stop her. You have to stop her. Never says who her is, just that you have to stop her. Now, I went back and I watched this episode a couple of times, specifically for a couple scenes to try to find something. And Monica actually states that she hears Wanda in her head. Monica says that. She doesn't allude to it being a her, a she. She says Wanda. And then Herb simply says her. So I definitely believe that they're building it up to be that Wanda is in fact the culprit. However,
there's another witch there.
We have the whole Agnes Agatha connection. And
she said, "Do you think I'm controlling people mowing their lawns and taking their dog? Like, I'm doing all of that at the same time I'm doing all of this?"
No, but
and there's only one person who seems to be doing their own thing and shows up whenever the hell they want, conveniently at the same time.
Okay, the fact that she is independent, and it feels like she's independent of all of the potential control, and even has some control over others around her as well, because when...
It's like she didn't even trip out when like the kids all of a sudden aged up,
Yeah,
like
she
out of nowhere.
said
She was just
that.
like,
She
"Oh,
made
that's
sure
good,
she said
whatever."
She's witnessed the magic taking place real time and hasn't been fazed by it. But even if you go back to the previous episode, when Monica is inside talking to, well, at the time she's Geraldine, but when Geraldine is inside and she's talking to Wanda, Vision is outside and he's talking to the neighbors, right when it seemed as though there was a certain level of concern about Geraldine being inside. Now, initially, we kind of looked at it and we just seemed like, okay, well, she doesn't know who Geraldine is. And it's like, well, wait, everybody that's in that town is this, all these people are trapped, or all these people are together. These are the people from the town, or whatever the case may be. Why is she the only one that stands out as being different? I kind of agree with Jeff. That was about the only time right before she got yeeted where it felt a little weird. Like, why is Geraldine got to be the one that stands out and seems different? But it was at that moment where I also noticed that, like, Herb was getting ready to say something. Or not Herb. Who was that?
Herb.
That was Herb. So Norm
is
was
the guy
one
in
that
the
got
office.
unlocked. Okay. I called him Herb earlier. So Norm is the one that got unlocked. So Herb is actually getting ready to say, he's like, well, I mean, the problem is, like, she's the only one who's, she's here because she knows that we're all, and that's when we see Agnes turn, and the way she looks at him is equal parts frightened and equal parts frightening. Like, she's demanding that he not say anything, whether it's because she's afraid of what's going to happen or she's in control and doesn't want him to spill the beans. Just go back and watch that scene, and now with the understanding that maybe she's in on it, you see that scene a lot differently.
Because if you think about all the other episodes, a lot of those people aren't carrying over. We're just seeing her. We haven't.
Very few characters had like
people
reoccurring
carry
roles.
over. Yeah.
We haven't seen Dottie again yet.
Why
I
are
mean,
there no kids?
she had a big
Why are
role
there
with
no
the
children?
for the children, for the children,
The
for the
whole
children.
town was that way.
And now all of a sudden we got kids. But right before, even before we got to the meeting that was all about the kids, she was like, "Well, this is a great place to do school registration." And she like does the whole like stare down. She's like, well, "Okay, wait a minute. Let's not get ahead of ourselves." The very first thing she was like, "So why don't you guys have kids? Like that's everything's been pointing towards these kids, and now boom, we got kids, and the kids are grown. Like the kids already 10 years old. What the hell?"
But they're the only kids. That's the freaking part.
Literally
They're
the only
only
kids. And you notice
only
as soon as
kids.
they got done talking about the kids, it was like it's all about family all of a sudden, and then Pietro, out of nowhere, just
Right before
Okay,
Pietro
what?
shows up, though, to Will's point, Vision is like, "Why are there no other kids in this neighborhood?" We did a whole magic show for the children.
that weren't
And there wasn't
there.
no
I
children.
ain't seen no damn children this whole show. No children. But the talent show is for the children. What children? What? Who? I mean, Ralph got all the kids. Is he babysitting right now? What the hell?
It's for the children that Wanda was going to have.
Oh,
Because
four.
each episode has kind of been, like I said, my theory is that like each episode has been Wanda learning how to control and expand her powers. And
She didn't do a very
so
good job
funny
this
thing,
episode.
because you guys know this, like I just started watching My Hero Academia, right? And so
Fuck
She's
you.
in
learning
the
how
show-
not to
Show, by
break
the
her
way.
arm.
right,
Decker!
exactly. In the show, he's slowly like learning how to take on like the power, because to just like you have to like prime yourself to like let that kind of power flow through you, even if it's already inside of you or if it's being like helped or pushed through by Agatha, Agnes, whoever this character could be. So in the first couple of episodes, I think that reasoning is because Wanda has even the reverse engineering of the show. I'm feeling like Wanda has like a reverse engineering of how do you get to like that happiness, that paradise that she's talking about in episode 5. She's trying to create a life where she has it all. All includes a family life, kids. So it's like when you say like this is for the kids, it's like I'm testing and I'm learning how to expand my power set. I'm learning how to control different people. The set is like more elaborate. Things are in color now. Now we actually have the bill. I've actually pushed children out and like we have them and they exist. And everything that we did in those other black and white and like the more retro episodes was for these kids so that she could have enough power to control the town, have enough power to create. Because another thing that they were talking about was,
Using the
which
existing matter.
you were talking about once, Sam, was like the matter and how she's changing this stuff. Is she creating it out of thin air? And then they go and test Monica's pants, and they're made out of Kevlar, which is what she was wearing in her bulletproof vest when she went in. So we were learning that Wanda is not creating things out of thin air. She's just changing
reality.
things.
Altering the
Literally.
reality.
She's altering
of
reality.
I
what's
love that
coming
they
in.
actually said those words in the show, as opposed to she's doing whatever she wants. Like they literally said the words "altering reality." And
But I like that Monica also made the point, like what you're seeing is real. She had them baby. I was there. I seen it. She had them baby. Like they're real. So for that reality of whatever it is, but yeah.
Which also answers the question of why when the agent goes in through the tunnels and his tether turns into a jump rope, when they pull it out, it stays a jump rope. Because she's actually changing this stuff.
Yeah.
but that
She's not
stuff
like-
exists.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not just like a hologram or mental projection where these people are just being telepathically controlled. She's actually like she's not changing the molecular structure because it's still made out of what it's made out of, but she can alter it to be something else. So she could change it from a Kevlar like
Vest.
a bulletproof vest
To
to
a
like
outfit.
some Kevlar disco pants. And
Bell
I thought
bottoms
that
and
was like
Gucci vest.
right. I thought that was just like a really interesting like thing because it really is actually, it was kind of like not glossed over, but I don't think that they really like stuck on it for a while. And I think that that's going to come back because they now have the understanding that whatever goes into that bubble is going to get changed. So that's why I think Monica was then trying to figure out her theory of like, how can I get back in the bubble? And I think the first step is like understanding like what's going to happen to you, not just you as a person. Mentally, we know when you go in the bubble, Wanda is going to basically be like suppressing your own thoughts. Her grief is going to be suppressing like what you think and what you feel. And basically, you won't be able to do anything but serve the purpose that she has for you inside the bubble. But also, it explains why the drone changed into the toy helicopter. It explains the tether. It
I was so
explains
upset. I
her
wanted
clothes.
that to mean more.
Yeah, I know.
But you have to wonder about how much control she has over Vision. It's very interesting the interaction they had. Why
Especially at the end of the
she
episode.
said that.
It appears to be
Yeah.
less and less.
You know?
And I think part of their conversation, well, see, I think a lot of that ties into a couple of things that have already been mentioned. One, and that's why I kind of want to get back to like maybe some of the potential theories and whatnot. Now, we've talked about the potential that Mephisto, just because, you know, House of M and the comics and everything that exists there, of course, the Mephisto being like the devil. They've had some very key words where they've talked about the devil in the details. That's not the only place he is, you know, and that's like two of the main characters right there. Well, not main characters, but like two of the supporting characters, because you have Dottie and you have Agnes, both referencing and making clear reference to the devil. And in the Marvel world, Mephisto is in fact the devil. You go to the House of M comic line, you know, the storyline with the twins and whatnot, and it turns out Mephisto is created from the essence, or the twins are created from the essence of Mephisto. So that's obviously one route that we could go, and that could actually be where this increase in power is coming from, and perhaps maybe that increase in power is like she could only be responsible for a handful of things, and it could be Dottie in everybody's head because Dottie is Mephisto, and Agnes is free and clear, and she's pushing the things that need to be pushed and saying the things that need to be said in order to push Wanda further in advancing her powers. Because again, every time she's needed, and I'm air quoting for those who can't see, but every time she's needed, she shows up exactly with what's needed. She seems to be the only other person because all of the other characters don't
have a certain level of autonomy.
Right. They don't seem to be aware that they are a part of this utopian world where they're, you know, exactly as they're supposed to be. They don't see the sitcom that exists. Agnes is the only one who's walked in to be like, do you want to redo that take? Mm-hmm. You want me to hold the babies, right? Like she's suggesting to her. Mm-hmm. And Wanda's fragile. She's a broken woman.
Because Vision broke script. That was why everything fell apart. Vision didn't do a normal Vision action. So therefore the script kind of went off the rails, and Agnes was like, no, you take it from the top, like.
But that's crazy because even in a damaged script, in a moment like that, if they were just ad-libbing on the show, if it was recorded live in front of a studio audience or something like that, you know, anybody who's watched Saturday Night Live understands, like, you still know what to say. You continue on. You work past that part. Bad example, but, you know, when Mike Myers and Kanye West were live on television, Mike Myers kept his lines. He just said...
He looked at him, he's like...
He was like, yeah, okay. So here's the next thing I'm supposed to say. And he just continues with that. So when you have those moments, you just continue on. And the fact that Agnes did not continue on, but broke character, indicates to me that she is not one of those people who's being controlled.
She's not terrified, she's scared, she's not questioning what's going on. She's just like,
cool, calm, collected. She knows.
Right?
I'm looking for your brown alcohol.
Whereas when Monica said that, you know, oh, he was killed by your, you know, Ultron killed your brother. That moment, like, of fear and terror came over her that you saw. That she knows she was not supposed to say that. So
that was that moment where she kind of woke up inside the Matrix and was looking around at all the other pods and was like, wait, this isn't right. This isn't normal.
Like, come on, you know I'm your friend. Like, don't do this.
I mean, it does let on that, we know that everybody knows actively what's going on, so that everybody knows that something is happening, but they have no concept of time. Like, it's where's my phone? My
How long
dad's
have I
sick.
been here? Yeah.
Yeah, they don't know, but they're aware that they're being controlled to a certain extent and stuff like that, which it actually kills some other theories that I had because Wanda has reanimated the dead before and stuff like that, and I wasn't sure if everybody in town was dead or not or whatever stuff like that. Now we're actually finding, when everybody was shown to be live people, here's their driver's license, all that kind of stuff. Now we got more on the fact that they're being controlled and stuff like that. It's like, okay, that makes more sense and stuff like that in terms of Mephisto stuff, because again, he's a soul taker and stuff like that, and he likes especially powerful souls, which where it comes from with Agatha. So that it's like, okay, well, Wanda specifically reanimated Agatha in the comics and stuff like that, freaking to be alive to help her with things and stuff like that. So I wasn't sure if this was the case, if Agatha was reanimated, not necessarily by Wanda, but maybe by Mephisto or somebody else or whatever, to play a role. And that's what freaking Agatha's doing. She's playing her role. It's like that, because I feel like something's on the line, and Agatha may not necessarily be the bad guy, so like that, but she may be stuck in the middle. Like, she's trying to do what's best for Wanda and stuff like that, and not let Wanda go off the deep end and stuff like that. At the same time, trying to do a master's bidding, so to speak, or something. I don't know. Again, I got so many things rolling through my head that I still haven't finalized on where I stand with that yet. So it's interesting.
I think that's why, like, I'm literally watching this with no thoughts. I'm trying to observe, but I'm not leaping forward like I normally do when I watch a movie.
Lucky you.
Happened? What's going on? I am
right.
in
I'm
it.
with Will. I'm stuck. I can't help it. I have
There's
to.
a couple rabbit holes I've fallen in.
I know for you guys you can't help it, but I'm usually the same. But I'm loving that it's so blank up there. I'm just like, I'm immersed. I want stuff to roll out. I want to have those reveals and be so shocked and oh, okay, and then kind of think about it, but not go so far where I can't really enjoy what's happening because I'm trying to jump so far ahead.
And my wife is
I'm in the same boat.
That's how she's enjoying it, just as it's being presented.
Yes,
she doesn't have and I kind of mess up sometimes, and I make her listen to me explain. You think y'all got it bad?
You know, listen to theory, girl. No, but
like,
I think something kind of is taken away when you do that. And two, you have to remember we're being shown things in the way that they want us to see them. There's nothing sneakily happen. So, oh, you weren't supposed to see that. No, we're seeing it how they want us to. They want us to come up with these theories and this is what.
No,
I'm doing exactly what they want me to do. I'm doing that.
Let me tell you something. This is how I know that we're
I'm
doing the right thing.
I'm gonna tell you this. As someone who's in the room with these people, we all find it hilarious. We think all the theory articles are hilarious. We think people trying to like put stuff together beforehand. It's like hilarious because even if people are right, when people are right, it's like impressive. But when people are wrong, it's just
they're
like,
wrong.
You laughing at me? You laughing at me?
Because it gets to like Sam level where you're like, see, the helicopter was broken and it was red and yellow.
It was
Iron
a broken
Man.
machine.
Open your. It's like people be like, open your third eye. About,
put a diamond in it.
Right,
and
24 karat peak down.
I'm more on Denisia's side with this too, where I'm just like letting it be revealed, and I think that's what kind of even makes like our conversations interesting, because we have like, it's almost like that X-Files dynamic of like Mulder, the believer, the person who has all the theories, the person who's like, yeah, man, the chupacabra is real, and then me and Denisia are like Scully, where we're like, look, man, until I see a fucking chupacabra with my own eyes,
where is the science?
I'm not gonna even like entertain the fact that it's a chupacabra. It's just some dogs and some goats have gone missing on this border town in Texas, and let's go see.
That's just a big ass squirrel track on the ground right there. You talking about chupacabra? Ain't no claws? Nah, I'm good.
But yeah, to add on your whole X-Files
I was about to say, what
thing.
do you think, Brent? Please let Brent say something.
Every time I get started, there's Sam and Jeff. But But like adding on to Jeffrey's point, like the whole thing is that about the whole Scully point is that most of us, I'm gonna say comfortably, we aren't into Scarlet Witch or Vision like that. They were accessories to cool comic stories.
Yeah.
But it's not like we were diehard fans of them to begin with. So having them be the absolute ones to kick off the ball for this one, there's a lot of deep diving and a lot of people becoming super familiar with new material to them or like adjacent material to something that they already read and having to, try and catch up and piece together theories based upon the smallest and most minuscule detail that, like Jeff said, doesn't fucking matter for most people.
Yeah.
But occasionally some people pick up on something and be like, boom, you're right. You nailed it. Bravo, you're a genius. Other times like, man, thanks for the laugh. You made my day. I appreciate it.
At the end of this thing, Jeff is going to tell me all about how many times that I made him fucking laugh, I'm sure.
I think Brent makes a very, very good point because a lot of this story, like, they have not definitively said, there is no reference material to say that they are adapting XYZ story. Is this House of M? It can't necessarily be House of M because we have no Magneto. You know what I'm saying? There are no mutants to wipe out. So they can't be doing that story. But for those of us who read that comic and know certain aspects of how that story plays out, we're able to make associations to the things we know versus the things we're seeing. And for me especially, and you guys see me do it every week, that is where my ball of yarn starts unraveling, and that's where I lose my shit. Because I'm like, I know this, that, and I can make this shit fit. I can make it work. Just give me 2 seconds. I'll make it make sense somehow. And that is the part that I think they're laughing about. You know what I'm saying? That's the part that they find funny. And for every 10 theories, I get one right. I'm happy as hell about that one. When Evan Peters showed up on screen as Quicksilver, I was like, God damn it, I called it. I called it day one. The moment he was cast in this show, I was like, he's going to be Quicksilver. He's going to replace Quicksilver because Quicksilver's dead and Wanda can bring his ass back. I said that from.
Do we want to just go ahead and just get into fucking Quicksilver theories and then swing back and talk about other stuff?
Because the Quicksilver theory that I heard was that
I feel like
basically Wanda pulled him from a different reality, and then now
Yeah,
they're trying to connect the
No.
X-Men cinema universe in with the MCU so that they can build towards a bigger story for Spider-Man 3 for their cash cow with Sony, so everybody gets rich.
Okay.
Wanda didn't do it. That's what I'm saying. I don't think Wanda did it. Like, I'm confident Wanda didn't do it. I'm thinking that freaking in the back of my head stuff, either, again, Mephisto, Agnes, or whatever, we're trying to concoct some shit to kind of pull some shit together and stuff like that to help keep her in a certain reality, or it was the kids.
I'm just
Because
saying, though, that
because they had the conversation. They had the conversation about family. Asked if they had a brother, so that they've already shown they got powers of their own, so that and they're doing stuff. It's like there's stuff happening there and stuff like that. So when mommy said that, hey, I can't bring this dog back and stuff like that because family is important and stuff like that. Well, in my head, and think about, and this is me speaking from a father, if I say I can't do something, or there's been several times where my kids will, well, I'll do it for you, daddy, or I'll try to help you, or I'll try and do whatever I can, stuff, and it to make me feel better and stuff like that. That's kind of what I see and stuff like that. They don't want mommy to feel bad.
I was ready to shoot that down completely, but that makes sense.
So I was going to say Mephisto could still be at work here because in the comics, what he was trying to do was break down the barriers of reality so that he could always skip around as he needed to avoid his eternal damnation. Because that was the whole thing he was trying to get. He's like, I want to snatch some souls. I want to have some fun doing it. Oh, Judgment Day? Yeah, fuck that. I'm out. And he would just hop around from place to place, causing issues as he needed to.
I also have a theory, too.
Okay, you do yours first. You go ahead.
No. I mean, we could talk about everybody else's if you want. Like, if we want to talk about like the individual.
I just want to hit the one Evan Peters Quicksilver theory, just because I want to piggyback off what Will was saying, and as far as the boys, I think it is. Agnes actually seems a little shocked because when we talk about Sparky, and shout out to them for using the same name for the dog, but when we talk about Sparky and him dying by eating the poison in the yard. How random was that shit? But she's got the poison plant in the yard. The dog eats the poison. She didn't know what to do. She's right there with the dog. The twins asked her to revive the dog. Agnes genuinely seemed shocked, as if she did not know that would be something that she could do. It wasn't one of those moments where that was one of those off-script moments, in my opinion, because she was like, the dog's dead. I don't know, like I didn't know what to do. Maybe she was literally fearful because she knows that Wanda could straight up yeet her out of this place. She knows that could happen. We're going to keep saying it that way because it's funny as hell. She would get yeeted out. Yeet, she's out. But, what I'm saying? She knew that could be something that Wanda could do. But when the twins are like, no, you can do that, right, mommy? Like, and I'm thinking to myself at that point, like, what example do they have of her bringing anybody back? They've not seen.
I think
her.
it's just the classic, like, kids, like, mommy, you can do anything.
Right, and they
like,
said that. But they also kind of hint to her that she's already done it. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so if she brought Vision back to life, well, Vision is just a synthezoid. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I want to say he's just a robot, but they're very clear that he's a synthezoid. And as a synthezoid, he's a synthetic man. So he is, in fact, a man. He's got the right anatomy, etc., which is why they get twins. But but anyway, like, if she could reanimate him. Now, in that moment where she has the break and we get to see he's not whole. He is literally reanimated. And I'm wondering, is that what the kids see? If they are not under her spell and illusion because she can't charm them, she can't cast her magic or use her powers on them. What if they're seeing things as they are? They realize what their dad looks like, but he's still moving around. So if they're seeing dad as that moment when she was not able to, fix it in her head, they're seeing Vision walk around with a big hole in the center of his head. They're thinking, you can bring the dead back to life, mommy. We know you can do this.
I heard it more of a questioning. Like, mommy, can you can do that, right, mom? Like, I didn't hear
I feel like the first time they're pleading, like, you can do anything. Come on, mom. You can bring him back, right? You can do anything. And it's like, when she, because it's before that, they're sitting on the sofa, they're talking about, do you have a brother? And she's like, yes, he's far away from here. So of course they're kind of planting the seed and talking about it. But I still feel like Agnes is sitting there holding the dog, and she's like, you can do that? Like, she's genuinely shocked. She doesn't know that that's a capability. So it kind of led me to think, like, maybe she really doesn't know. But I think, to Will's point, in order to satiate Wanda and keep her calm, because what is happening? Literally, she and Vision are at each other's throats. He's in the air flying. She's in the air flying. They about to throw hands. Like, wait a minute. They about to have their own little scene of civil war. Inside the house, and Vision's like, you can't control me. She's like, I'm not controlling. That right there, that whole
No, she said, can't I?
Yeah.
Well, at first she
That
said,
was her
can't I?
first
She started to walk off, and she was like, roll credits on this bitch. We done with this conversation. And he was like, no, we're not done with this. We gonna talk about
Every
this.
married man knows that feeling.
Right? It's like, no, we are
Your
not
wife
done
roll
with
credits
this.
on you.
But wait a minute. When she turned around and my man like got up, I was like, don't do it, Vision. Martin was like, hey, bro, that ain't what you want. That ain't what you want. Like, don't do it.
He already had it before. He know that ain't what he want.
He gonna find himself in a bunch of pieces. He know how that works out.
I like that he made the reference about, we're going to go to bed and you're going to redo whatever in the morning. We're going to wake up. Tomorrow's going to be different.
It's going to be the fucking 90s. It's going to be freaking for you.
Yeah.
Like, so he acknowledged that he understood that was happening, but he was just kind of like.
So he was letting it pass by.
That indicates that he is not under this illusion. He's independent and moving and operating freely.
Well, maybe because he's not alive.
And very well could be. You know what I'm saying? Like, because he doesn't have the physical stone, we saw that moment. He doesn't have the physical stone, so he has literally only been alive 9 days. Because we hear from the director, who I'm still like looking at this dude with the side eye, like I don't like him. I don't trust him.
he already messed up. He
Right,
already messed up in episode 5.
The minute he tried to bomb her, I was like, see, I knew that.
No, he messed up before. He messed up when he was talking to freaking Wu and was trying to. Well, what about this? Like he was already trying to step on her toes. Like she ain't shit. Like she ain't fucking.
We knew right from rip
She
that
ain't
he
even
was
got a
gonna go in
nickname.
guns blazing. There was no question he was gonna come in guns blazing. But it was even
maybe he's Mephisto.
as far back.
He had that
as
jawline.
It is very possible. It is very possible because the whole you remember okay, so Wanda's the daughter of Magneto, and remember in the X-Men movies, if you watched them, because most of them, anyway, if you watch the X-Men movies, there's a scene where Magneto takes all of the guns and turns them around and points them back.
That was what,
people.
First Class?
And
That was
it
the
was
first
the originals.
X-Men movie.
it was the original, but he also in First Class he took all the missiles and he turned the missiles around.
Oh, okay, that's one thing.
But I mean that is a signature Magneto move. Wanda took all of them guns and turned them right around the director.
Well, she turned all the people with the guns.
Yeah.
My man had a bunch of green dots on his chest and he was not happy about it. But isn't that the kind of thing that the bad guy would do to make himself look more innocent?
Possibly.
He going down this
Definitely.
rabbit hole.
So I'm just
I
I'm just
let him
going
dig.
with
He
Will.
watched the same
Come
videos
up
I
for
did.
light.
I'm just
Go down
going
the
with
hole.
Will as far as if he's the bad guy, if he's Mephisto, or because I mean it's not Dormammu, you know what I'm saying? And it's like there's a ton of videos you can go out there and watch, and all these theories of who it could be and whatnot. And I'm like, I'm really just sticking simple with the Mephisto. It's the only one so far that makes sense. I like that one the most. It makes the most sense in my head canon.
Oh, well, what about freaking Ralph? Because I was sitting there thinking. That's why when Agnes got excited, like you can reanimate the dead and stuff like that. Ralph, I'm pretty sure Ralph is fucking dead somewhere.
Yeah,
and stuff
we
like
never
that.
seen him.
So when she's like, you can reanimate the dead, like you can bring him back to life, and Agnes got excited, like maybe you can bring my Ralph back because Ralph has been gone, and she's talking about Ralph like he's around. I don't know.
So
to
you
your point
agree-
on Ralph,
You
like,
agree that there was some genuine surprise and shock in her voice.
Yeah, there was something going on there.
What you
It's
got,
like
Brett?
I'm good.
No, what was you saying?
Nah, we good.
If it's a valid, I just want to make sure.
Nah, we good.
Okay.
I'm gonna poke at Brent later about that. Like, hey, what was you about to say?
Right. You don't feel
You
bad.
messaged me
I
right
just
now, bro.
wanted that one. Nobody backed me up when I said Agnes was shocked and surprised, and Will was kind of confirmed. I'm like, okay, so you agree with me? I'm not tripping. I didn't
That's
make
it.
that up.
She seemed genuinely shocked, freaking that something was going on, stuff like that. But again, with all this with that, because Agnes has been playing a role the whole time, I can't confirm that it's a solid freaking whatever. But again, it's a 50-50 right now. It's like she could have been playing us and stuff like that. She could be genuinely shocked. It could go either way, but I could see how it could go in either direction. So I'll definitely give you that.
And that was my only point. And I do apologize. I think my microphone was a little louder than Brent's, and I feel like I cut him off. That was not my intention. So I do want your input. I want what you were saying.
I already forgot what we're talking about.
Okay, see, it'd be
Well,
that dead
I have-
air. That's why I keep talking. So
Well,
what
I have a
other?
theory. I have a theory on
What you got?
a few things. So, in terms of like when they're talking about the Sparky, R.I.P. I want to go back because the title of this episode is a very special episode, which
Okay.
for all of us who grew up in like the 80s and 90s, we know that a very special episode means that this show usually is funny, but it ain't going to be funny tonight.
Today
So,
we
for
deal with real
instance,
life problems. We're gonna have a
different
PSA at
strokes.
the end of this.
Right. So for like instance, different strokes with the guy with the bike shop who was like molesting kids.
You
that
could
was
have
like the
picked
very
any other
first.
example.
Yeah.
No, because that was the first one. That was the first one. That was like literally the first like very special episode where they come in, you're sitting down. There's a lot of examples. There's a date rape episode of A Different World. There's a Say No to Drugs episode of Different Strokes and Saved by the Bell and every other indie
Right, when
show.
Jesse
pretty
was
much
on
from
the,
90s.
Oh, Jesse was on it, boy.
Uppers.
There's
I'm
that
so
one,
So
and then
excited.
There's that one, and then there's the one where they're going to shoot the anti-drug commercial, and the actor in the commercial is actually like a weed head
Yeah,
and offers
I
like weed
remember
to,
that too.
yeah.
The gateway drug.
Yeah, thinking about that, I'm kind of like, okay, that makes sense why. Because at first I was like, man, this is not like a funny episode. Like all the other sitcom episodes were kind of like funny and things were like wackily happening. But like on this one, it's like, mommy and daddy, you guys are like fighting. And she's like, well, sometimes we're not on the same page. And daddy needs to just go to work and cool off. And they're like, but it's Saturday. So my thoughts about
Does he
this
have to
are,
escape us? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like her power like fluctuations or the things kind of getting out of control are directly tied to the kids. And it's because we learned with Monica that when you go into the bubble, she's just like repurposing the materials and the molecules that are already there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, where do these kids come from? They came out of her. So are these kids literally like, is she literally like taking like pieces of herself and turning them into the kids? And then now we have like two pieces of Wanda that are like separate from her and have complete autonomy, and they got magic too. Maybe that's why they're like, mommy, you can do anything, because if they're made of Wanda, do they have like all the knowledge and like understanding that comes with being made from Wanda?
that would
And
also
then
explain why her powers don't work
On the
them.
kids, yeah.
And that might explain why they are like, you already brought somebody back from the dead, because they might not be seeing that vision all the time. But if they're like kids and learning how to control whatever powers they have, they might have seen that same flash we saw when Wanda was kind of like losing control a little bit when her powers were like on the fritz with the babies. So that's my theory about that. Like her powers are kind of like getting out of control because she's like actually now giving up like pieces of herself to create her like happy family life. And in doing that, the less of her there is, the harder it is for her to like control all these other powers, because she actually like is not complete. She's not whole, which is symbolic for like the whole like Monica saying like it was grief. Like the feeling that I felt was not like anger. It wasn't like her being like a terrorist. It was literally grief. So I'm thinking about, you know, the five stages of grief and how people go to them. And, you know, most of the time people have to go through all 5 stages because you have to get out and come on the other side, because you can't actually do anything to change it. Well, what if you actually do have the power to change it? You get stuck in denial. And Wanda being stuck in denial has way different consequences from like a regular person being stuck in denial. So that goes into my Agnes theory when they're with the dog, and I'm just kind of like,
what stage would we be on? Let's go back to that theory real quick, if I can. What stage do you think we would be in WandaVision? Because the 5 stages are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance.
Denial and going into anger.
And anger.
Yeah, I think we're just now starting. In episode 5, we saw anger because now she's pissed off at Vision, because her attitude towards Vision isn't one of like, I know you don't understand what's going on. Her attitude is like, look at what I'm doing, and like you still aren't grateful. Roll credits. I'm going in the other room.
Well, even anger with Monica and all of them for trying to disrupt her world. And I think it's very interesting that the dog, when she was gone.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that theory, and I would almost put us at the bargaining stage, because I would say the denial would be
episodes 1 and 2.
Well, not even episodes 1 and 2. I think we go back even further, because we have to look at
when they show her getting the body.
When we saw her lose Vision, that goes all the way back to Endgame, or Infinity War, you know what I'm saying, where she actually lost him there, and then she herself was blipped. She was gone for those 5 years. We don't know for them it was only moments, but they come back and it's like it's been 5 years later. So she comes back. Whatever has happened in that time period has happened. When she sees Thanos again, that was anger. She was like ready to take this dude all the way out. Then she's right there at the end of the movie and she's talking about, I can still sense some, he's like, I hope she understands what we did. Da, da, da. She's like, she can. They both can. We know then she's talking about both Black Widow and Vision. You know what I'm saying? We kind of get that first hint that maybe she's looking at that. I could definitely see that her breaking into the facility, taking the body is denial. Anger is what we've got. So that's why I'm just questioning the bargaining. The 5 stages being denial,
that's where
anger, bargaining,
the world
depression,
came from.
acceptance. So I was curious where you thought we were on that. Continue on.
She could have bargained with us.
And that's why I'm saying, like, where are we in that theory?
That's where she got the souls to have the babies. She bargained with Mephisto. So
yeah, but I think in the 5 stages of grief, the reality is like you bargain, but you don't get what you're bargaining for. It's
exactly.
Not like,
I'm not counting this as part of the stages.
So,
but see, that's why Vision's not accepting this reality, and that's why she's having such a hard time, because she's like, you have no idea what I went through to put us here, to get us to this point.
She's not actually going through and coming out on the other side of each stage. She's in denial.
Still.
And then she's in denial and angry.
Anger at the same time.
And she's in denial and angry and now bargaining. And that's how this world gets, because you have to like pass out of denial into anger, not like stack one on top of the other. But
is she in denial though? Because when she's talking to Monica and them telling them to leave her alone, she knows what she's doing.
So she's past denial.
She's in denial about the fact that like they're gonna just let her do this, and she's in denial about the fact that she can actually just like make this world and like keep it together and like
she's in denial about the reality.
She's in denial about the fact that Vision is going to look at it and say, okay, yeah, I'm okay with just being alive and being your husband, but and screw all these other people who have lives who've been taken away, who are basically prisoners in their own bodies to satisfy our fantasy. I think she's been in denial about how he's going to like accept that once he realizes like what's going on, which is why she keeps editing him anytime he does anything that kind of like shows, oh, I'm understanding what's going on and I don't like it. Yeah. So I do feel like she's kind of still in denial, except she just actually has the power to like create an illusion or create like that bubble that like feeds into the denial even more. My theory on that's my theory on like Wanda and all that and what she's going through right now.
Like that one.
On Evan Peters.
Yes.
Because other people already like gave their theories on him. So this is my theory. Understanding, so none of my theories hang on Mephisto because I'm just not even gonna bring that up until I hear like his name or something more that tells me like there's something else going on.
So the devil in the details, and the devil is more than just in the details. You need more than that. I'm with you.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I need, because
that's not definitive. No, I'm not saying that facetiously. I'm not saying that
laughing at me, please. I enjoy
it's in the back of my mind, but it's not on the board yet. It's just like in the back of my mind because there's enough plausible deniability for them to like because I don't want to be like, man, I thought it was gonna be Mephisto,
like that's too easy. Is that the problem? It's too easy for them to just go that route.
Not even that it's too easy. It's just I just like to like with this show, I'm taking it one step at a time, and I'm focused more on like analyzing what I see a little bit more. Although this theory kind of like shoots that in the foot, because we know in the comics there are parallel realities. We know eventually, because there's a multiverse of madness, there is like some form of multiverse in the MCU just from that title alone. And if they didn't want us to know that, they wouldn't have titled the movie Multiverse of Madness and told us the title so far in advance. So I think it's okay for us to go into this movie and any movie from here moving forward, understanding that there is a multiverse. Well, if I look at how the multiverse works in the comics, basically it's like on every planet, it's like the same people, but different choices lead to like different outcomes. So
Sliding
the
doors.
best example I can think of is like Spider-Man. On one movie, in one Earth, Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and he dies, and Miles Morales.
All right, let's do this one more time, folks.
Yeah, we go through all that, but then in another, basically, if you saw Into the Spider-Verse, that's how it works. It's like the same people is on different planets, but it's just different realities. My theory about Evan Peters is that it's not the Quicksilver from
the MCU,
Fox universe,
or from Fox.
It's actually just some dude in the MCU that looks like that Quicksilver from the other Earth. And because in the other one, he's not a twin. So we haven't seen a Wanda in the X-Men movies.
Right.
So somebody has the power to peer into the multiverses, peered into the Fox multiverse, and was like, this dude is Pietro in this universe. She can't reanimate her brother. So let's yeet this dude in and put him into the show now. Maybe he was like somewhere else. Maybe he was whoever. But my theory is like he's just like a doppelganger of the Pietro from the Fox universe. But in the MCU, he's not actually Quicksilver, but just somebody to put her in the show. They put in the show because she was starting to lose it. And
I like half of
that. The first grief she's really experiencing, like with after having her powers, is losing her brother in the like Sokovia, whatever it's called, like
the Battle of Sokovia.
When they drop,
one of the
when they drop
stages
the
of grief is guilt and pain. I know you listed a different 5, Sam, but one of I just know from losing parents, but one of them is guilt. And of course, she feels a lot of that for her brother and for Vision. I did think it was interesting. He looks younger. He's a lot younger than her. They're supposed to be twins. And like, where did this New York accent come from? Like, it was very interesting.
Yeah. So that's why my thing, because she didn't recognize him. Yeah. And we know when people get recast, we all grew up on Fresh Prince. When light skin Aunt Viv walked in, they made one little joke about it. And they kept on camera. Moving. But for the rest of the time, it was like, that's Aunt Viv. Wasn't nobody like, who is that? Who is this? And she was like,
she wasn't a cousin, a sister. Shocked. He wasn't getting remarried. They didn't kill her off. Yeah. Literally recast.
Yeah. And I think that when she saw the Evan Peters Pietro, it was like he had all the Quicksilver characteristics, the white hair, like it was
That's why
just
they showed us his hair first.
Yeah. So we would like think who it was.
And then he showed his face. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. So I'm very curious to see like what he's gonna be in the bubble. And because my theory is like someone brought him in the bubble to keep her grounded, because it seemed like it was all starting to unravel in that episode.
Well, obviously somebody had to bring him in the bubble, because he was definitely not just hanging out in Westview.
Right. And she can't just like she can't just make people out of thin air either, outside of her like kids. So either she made these kids and she made Quicksilver Pietro and she had like no knowledge of doing that, or somebody was like the cast the showrunner was like, yo, this is starting to like unravel a little bit. We need to bring in like, that new character, like on
the ratings are going down. Let's try a special guest star.
Yeah.
Like bring in like Urkel or Cousin Cody from Step by Step.
Step by Step. Like that. Sasha. Yeah, Sasha Mary. I remember that. That. Let's take it me back.
that's kind of
Grandma,
my theory.
Mom on Family Matters. Like,
yeah, I think my theory is just like, I don't think it's actually her brother, but I think it's a person who just looks like the Fox version, but that's just like he just wasn't like Pietro on this earth. He was like somebody or something else.
So they just used him to kind of freak our brains out a little bit.
I think so.
Because
So
we would recognize
we may have
that
to do
and
it.
accept that.
We may
The
have to do a
audience.
part 2 because Jeff, I really want to like jump into that by itself.
Yeah, let's.
We'll do a whole separate.
I just
Yes,
said
please,
okay.
separate.
I said we'll have to do a part 2.
Well,
We're
I
not
think
gonna hold y'all
we'll
down.
obviously have questions answered in episode 6.
Right,
Because-
and you're
Yeah.
right. So you know what? I'm with you there. I will make note of this, and of course I'll listen to this again
We'll
once
bring
or
it back
twice this
around.
week. When we get to episode 6, if they do not have that answered at that time, I will pose my questions and look for a rebuttal at that time. So I am okay with that. Are there any? Does anybody have any final thoughts they want to give for
Yes,
this episode?
yes,
Will,
yes,
you got
I
something?
do.
What
I'm
you
not
got?
freaking done yet. This is it. All right. So one, I want to catch. All right, y'all caught when they put Spectrum News on the monitor when she walked in the Sword headquarters, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
All right. So y'all caught when she said, like she was mentioning Photon and stuff earlier. So they're saying her names throughout
Yes,
the thing. So
I
I
did
think it's a
see.
nice little nod. But the aerospace engineer, that's the one that's a question that's kind of hanging and stuff like that. Who
It
is
was
the
neurospace.
aerospace engineer?
No, it was aerospace engineer because they're having to. There's 2 possibles for that, and I believe that it has to be kind of limited down to 1. Because earlier in the episode, when everybody was trying to look for the Fantastic Four connections, we know we're like, since we really genuinely believe that we're getting our MCU X-Men connection, we're getting our MCU Fox connection, we're getting our MCU Fantastic Four connections. Since we know that WandaVision is going to lead directly to the multiverse, we know that coming right off of this series, we're going to have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. We know that there's going to be something big that takes place in this show. If we look at the introduction of potentially the Fantastic Four, I believe the test pilots who have disappeared that was mentioned in episode 3, I think that would be our nod to Fantastic Four. Because the test pilots would be the right scenario for the Fantastic Four. If they were on a shuttle, because they talk about how they don't do the manned missions anymore, they focus now more on robotics and nanotech and this and that and the other, AI, all that kind of stuff. If one of the last things that they did was have the Fantastic Four go out into space and they got blipped in the process of being out in space, the blip, because it takes place due to the Infinity Stones, that's that cosmic radiation, cosmic energy that they talk about because the stones have been around since the time of the Big Bang. Boom. Now you can bring in your Fantastic Four, as they were the 4 test pilots that took place. They got blipped. They got brought back from the blip. They got that cosmic radiation. Woo, woo, woo. Fantastic Four running. That leads who else to be the most capable engineer at this point? Because unfortunately, Tony's not around. It would have to be somebody who's just as capable, perhaps, as a Tony Stark and might have the same capabilities to build something that Tony Stark would. And since we already see that we got the twins from Wanda, we know that we've got a adult, like we know that the people came back from the blip, and one of those people was Hawkeye's daughter. You know, it definitely leads toward it being Riri Williams. And I think that if we go with a Young Avengers concept, that Riri Williams would be the next person in line, and it would make sense that since they've brought Monica Rambeau to be the daughter, they aged her down. That brings her in and makes her part of this new Phase 4 Avengers crew. We got to swap some people in and out. We're getting She-Hulk. You know what I'm saying? When you look at some of these different people that are coming in, we know that Falcon Winter Soldier is getting ready to happen. So they're already doing like a changing of the guard and whatnot. So this next group of Avengers, if they introduce right now 2 10-year-olds who have the capability to make themselves older if needed, a Monica Rambeau who's glowing with red energy after having been blipped, so we know that she's got that cosmic connection. I'm thinking Riri Williams. Well, who do you think is the person that's built this aerospace engineer? Who do you think it could be?
I mean, it's a tough one because you did give me some points and stuff like that. I was looking at because again with the test pilots disappearing and stuff like that, I wonder if the Fantastic Four can. Because the first person that came to mind for me was Ben Grimm and stuff like that. He made the most sense for that because he's the actual test pilot. He is freaking trained in aerospace. He all the rockets and stuff like that. So he makes the most sense. So that Reed Richards has a lot of knowledge and stuff like that. But like that was his thing, aerospace. All that stuff was Ben Grimm's thing. So he's the first one that came to mind. But again, with like some of the stuff you were saying, if they were already up and then back down and stuff like that, and then bringing them in, would you bring them in? Do they already have their powers, or are they going to get subjected? Are their powers like a latent thing that's going to pop up later on? Are we just going to get the human versions of them to come in? Is that to see what's going on?
Jeff, you're muted. Jeff,
You're
you're muted.
So
What if you know how we were talking on a couple episodes ago when people were like reappearing after the blip, like exactly where they were before, and I was kind of like, well, what if you were on a plane? That plane's not in the sky anymore. Are you just like appearing like just in the
Randomly
air?
in the air?
are you floating in space right now?
Yeah.
Like
So if you went up and you got blipped, unless the spaceship is in the same place that it was when you got blipped, would you get re-blipped or whatever they call it when you come back? Would that happen, and would you just be in space? And maybe if they get re-blipped in space, but they have like their suits on and stuff, but if they were studying some sort of radiation that the space shuttle protected them from, but now they're not in the space shuttle,
Overexposure.
that could be the exposure. That could be a way of like exposing them to that cosmic radiation, using like the blip as a tool to do that.
yeah. So you got them for freaking. You got
Just a theory.
You got Victor Von Doom. I mean, if you're bringing in Fantastic Four, Doom's not too far behind. And
Doom is a very capable magician.
He's capable of a lot of things. He's smart as shit as well. So that like there's a lot to unpack there and stuff like that. So I think it all comes down
I'm not
to
even gonna open that one. What if Doom's behind this?
No, let's
we're
not
not
open that one.
So basically, all I'm saying
Nah.
is like there's options and stuff that are out there, and this since Fantastic Four was announced, it's a perfect way for them to segue into it, so like that. But it also depends on time and placement as to how they got their powers, when they got their powers, and stuff like that. Did they stop manned missions? Why did they stop manned missions and stuff like that? So can Reed and Ben walk in and they're having a conversation about stuff, and then they say they're going to start up manned missions again and stuff like that, and then they go out and their powers and stuff get kicked in and stuff like that.
Well,
Freaking,
if they're on the spaceship though, remember this is only 9 days after people came back. So
yeah,
if they were on the spaceship and they got blipped, once everybody comes back on Earth, whatever agency that they were with, is
they're going to get
definitely
freaking
like,
screened
okay,
and
like
stuff like that.
they
You're
need,
here.
yeah, or we need to send a ship out there
Yeah.
to those like last coordinates where we heard from them to see if they're back, or we need like Captain Marvel to show up like in Endgame and save them and like bring them back to Earth.
Monica is
or
like,
something
we're
that.
not talking about Captain Marvel. We're
Yeah,
not even
so
saying
then-
that name.
So there's stuff there, and it's wondering and stuff like that who can come in and really give some insight and stuff like that. And again, with aerospace engineer and stuff like that, it's like, again, with that term and stuff like that, is like, you know, how far up the intellect chain are we going to go? Are we talking about the top level aerospace engineers and stuff like that? Or are we talking some mid-tier freaking people who just know some stuff that can segue into something else? Again, I don't know.
No, I think
But
the fact that Monica Rambeau was so excited and she was the
She
one
saw
that
that,
said
and they
it.
showed her texting like quickly.
Yeah.
So she knows somebody.
So, you know what?
Good point to end on.
I feel like we
have to
made
end
more
with theories
questions.
for next episode.
We
Oh,
made
Monica
more
Rambeau's
questions.
X-rays didn't come through, so something's going on. She probably already got her powers or something like that. Just saying. Okay, that's it. I'm done.
I noticed that too.
Yeah. She had to redraw blood, but she didn't say why.
No, she refused to. She's like, "Fuck that."
No, but I'm saying the doctor
Yeah.
wanted to redraw, but she didn't say why.
Well,
She didn't say what she found or what she didn't find.
her CT brain scan like showed nothing
Yeah.
except a little piece of afro puff off to the side. That was odd. And seeing again, she came out, and I think when we go back to Red, you know what? No, we'll talk about it later. The Red, she walks back into the bubble. The bubble for the first time was crackling with the red energy. When Monica came out, she was crackling with the red energy. I believe there's an amp up of her powers taking place, and that she might be stronger inside the bubble, or maybe she's stronger outside the bubble, and the bubble is suppressing her powers, and something to that effect. We could,
I think it's more just about her emotions. Like
yeah,
with most superheroes who have powers like that, it's like Hulk. The angrier you get, the stronger you get, but the less control you have. And I think this whole thing has been about her like she can do all this, but can she do it and like still stay like in control? And I think right now, once she realizes that there's a threat, it doesn't matter about staying in control inside the bubble, because there's like forces outside the bubble that are like penetrating her paradise and trying to get her, like, just trying to tear down like what she's building. And like she understands that there's oppositional forces, and where she may have thought this is just like a town in the middle of nowhere, nobody will miss it. Like now she's like, okay, like I'm on people's like radar, and you got to like step it up a little.
Yeah, because her ball of redness doesn't show up until she's angry, because she's doing things and moving stuff around, and we don't see that. It's just happening.
Right. Okay. Well, I think that right there. Does anybody want to give a prediction for next week? What do we think we're going to get out of episode 6? Is there
gonna
anything?
Be great.
I think that's a safe one. Good call on that. You think it's great? I think that is a good safe bet right there. Brent, what would you like to get out of episode 6? What question do you think they can answer without derailing the whole show?
They aren't going to answer my question anyway.
It'll
just be good and exciting.
What is your big question right now? We can use that then. What is your big question?
Who is controlling everything?
That is my question.
Okay. Yep. Who is controlling? Who's the main villain behind the scenes? We all kind of agree that there's someone behind the scenes.
We all want to know, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's just Wanda, personally.
That's not my question.
Okay, good. There we go. Different take. Jeff, what's your question?
I got a different question, too.
Okay, Will, what's your question? Whoever.
Will, you go.
Oh, my question is more or less it's not a question, more of a statement. I want to see. I think by the end of next episode, they're going to be prepared to enter the bubble and kind of see what's going on. I think they're going to go in there and something's going to happen.
You think we're going to get the engineer next episode?
So I think something's going to happen where they're setting up to go in. I think we're going to have more foundation for them going in and stuff like that. So if they don't go in next episode, then engineer's going to show up on site or something like that at the end of the episode. It's like, hey, you texted me, and we may get a nice little reveal, like, oh shit,
it was Reed Richards. Oh my god,
and stuff like that. And they're going to start formulating a plan to go in and stuff like that. Like this is coming to a head and stuff like that, to a degree. So it's like, what's it building to?
All right, Jeff, what you got?
So last time I talked kind of about like that Darcy, Agent Wu, Monica collab, like them building that relationship,
and we're seeing that kind of come to fruition very clearly.
And I think they're gonna build on that more. But I think the thing that I'm more interested in now is Wandavision and Agatha, Agnes, whoever, like whatever her name is, because I think that Wanda is going to be caught in the middle. And I think that, with her conversations with Vision just being like, this isn't right. Like what we're doing isn't right. I think Wanda like understands that, but she also doesn't want to like give up on like what she's built. And I think the Agatha character, like her whole role of like, I just show up with whatever you guys need, like all the time. In episode 1, you need to make a fancy dinner. Hey, I've got like all these ingredients. I'll bring them right over. Oh, you just got a dog? Here I am with the dog house, and I didn't even know you had it. I think that that's kind of her relationship has been like okay, Wanda, like you're doing this thing, you add something, I'll help you get what you need to kind of like keep it running smoothly. And so I'm almost looking at it like now where it's like Wanda and then like Vision is the angel on her shoulder and is Agnes the devil on her shoulder. How is Wanda respond to being pulled in two different directions? How does she respond to Vision if Vision doesn't want to go along with this? Because the whole point is for her to have a life with Vision. And if the whole point of this is for her to build this life with Vision, but Vision doesn't want to be there, do you turn Vision into a prisoner in his own body as well? Because that when she said can't I was like, okay, that's Wanda. Like that's Wanda. You know what I mean? Like she's like, and that's like somebody who's like coming in to like confidence in her powers and really feeling like, you know, what she understands what she's doing. She's on top of what she's doing. But I think that element of Vision not being on board puts a monkey wrench in all of this. And so my biggest question is, how is Wanda going to respond to Vision not being on board with this version of Paradise?
And see, my question about who's in charge is more so because we've seen the scenes where they're fighting together, they're coming together to fight. So that's why I want to know who's really in charge, what's really going on, because you do have Vision seeming like he's not okay with what's going on. But okay, then what is he defending?
But we saw Hulk running in Wakanda in the commercial for Infinity War.
Yeah,
and that brother.
Was nowhere to be found.
Yeah. So I mean that might be a thing too.
Misdirection.
I got the pop where he busted out the Hulk Buster. Like I have that pop. Mm-hmm. That shit didn't happen. I was like,
straight up misdirection.
So I mean it could be.
I love it.
Okay. My only question at this point, I want to know how quickly we will get to Doctor Strange. Are we going to be episode 9? Because we're at episode 5. And I still haven't seen the Halloween episode where we get to see them in like their classic costumes and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Like when you watch the trailer. It'd be fun if you don't even
see it. It'd be great.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like you see the trailers and they give you so much information and there's a lot of stuff there that's put out. And since we know Kevin Feige has actually stated, it's been very clear, and they've never shied away from the fact that this leads right into the next Doctor Strange movie. And so I am curious if we will get Doctor Strange in this series, or will they end this series with enough to do like a season 2 of WandaVision? Would they like set this up for cliffhanger where they could do a season 2 despite the movie? Or are we going to have Doctor Strange at like episode 8 closing the series out at episode 9? You know, that is my question.
Or does this movie just go cliffhanger but into Doctor Strange?
Right.
And like, then come out on the other side.
Is this whole series, is
this series independent? Like right, to another movie. Like I get that this leads to that, but I'm curious to what degree it takes us into that. Much like you said, is it going to be series end cliffhanger? Go see the movie to get the resolution. Is it going to be one of those things where, like, you know, if you watched every episode of Twin Peaks, the movie was the finale, you know, and you had to watch that Twin Peaks movie to get the finale of the TV show because of the way they ended it? Is it going to be a scenario like that, and the movie's going to be like a tie-in to this, or is this just something that kind of builds up and then the movie is separate from this? Because what if I don't watch this episode? What if I don't watch this series and I go see the movie? Am I going to be lost and confused? So I'm curious how strongly or how closely connected they are. That is my big question, because I think that's going to tell us a lot about how the multiverse unfolds and how important those things are, because that's going to tell me whether or not we get a Photon or a Spectrum in this series. Will Monica have powers by series end? Will she be a superhero by series end? Or will she just be recognizing in episode 9 that she has powers of her own? You know what I'm saying? And that would be the perfect setup to, they could do test audiences and spin her off into that show where she has Agent Wu and Dr. Darcy as her support team, and then we've got our spinoff right there for Photon. That's what I'm looking forward to. So, yeah, a lot of questions. I think we came up with more questions that I don't have answers to than we answered questions of what I've seen. Just like Marvel wanted us to do. Mm-hmm. That's what they've been doing to us this whole time, and I've been enjoying it. It has been fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen,
I think
boys
that
and girls,
I was going to say, I think that if we keep following that like 3-episode pocket formula that I've been talking about, this next episode is going to be like, it's going to answer a lot of questions and probably end on like some kind of cliffhanger that just leads into
just
like
to build up
7,
for the
8,
closing.
9. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see.
I expect nothing less.
I want to do 2 episodes at a time, but it's 9, so it's not an even number, so it does have to be 3. I agree with you there. So 3, 3, 3. We're through part 1. We're getting into part 2. And so it's like once we have this next episode, that'll be the end of part 2, and we'll be going into part 3, and I think that'll definitely close us out and set us up where we are. But that's it for me. I've got everything that I want to say for now. Jeff and I may come back and just run our mouths for an hour plus at some point later and deep dive this other shit, because I got some other theories I could just create on the fly.
Hey, don't leave me out of that.
I will bring
Y'all
you
have
on.
fun.
You're right. We're not gonna hold you. If you choose to follow that episode, no promises it's gonna see the light of day, but maybe, who knows. Nonetheless, we want to thank you for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed this. We hope we shed some light on something you didn't know, created a theory that you didn't have, or answered a question that you were trying to figure out. We are not going to stick by what we think, but simply what we see and how we've analyzed that. And it has been a wild ride up to this point. For those of you who have been with us the entire time, if you're watching this video, of course, you can click that QR code in the top left corner. That will take you to our Facebook page where we talk about we have our spoiler conversation on Wandavision every Monday at 2 p.m. That's when the thread opens up. We have one continuous thread, so I can go back every week and see where I was wrong and be reminded that I messed this up and messed that up. But also call out others who got something right and talk about the good things there. If you click the QR code to the right, that will take you to our YouTube channel, and from there you can check out all of the great series that we have. Not only can you follow all the WandaVision episodes, our preview episodes, and spoiler talk, you can also find a variety of our other segments. We have just standard admin chat. We have our top 5 videos. We have Gag on These Balls with Brent and Tony, and we've got a couple of special guest episodes there because we've now talked about the importance of the special guest episode and how important that is. When things start slowing down, you bring in a special guest. Don't have Evan Peters on any of those episodes, but still got some great special guests, and it'd be worth checking out. So be sure to check that out. This episode was recorded as a special early episode. We did not do our normal recording time because it happens to be Super Bowl Sunday. Brent, did you all have a great little recording for our pre-Super Bowl Gag on These Balls?
We had an episode on it, but we touched on it briefly because Tony didn't want to give any conversation whatsoever about the NFC South.
Okay.
Because his team wasn't in Super Bowl. He felt some type of way about it.
He had nothing to say about Super Bowl. But you all had a special guest on that episode, right?
We did have the president and CEO of Legacy Technology, LLC, Roberto.
Roberto showed up for another call randomly, as he does. So we thank him for being on that. So make sure to check out the latest episode of Gag on These Balls. We will start the new year off. I don't know what top 5 we're going to talk about, but we're going to have to. Actually, it's not the new year. Hell, we getting ready to be in Valentine's Day. We go. You know what? Before first quarter,
movies we love.
Right. First
top 5 rom-coms.
There you go. You know what? Oh my God. Damn it, Jeff. That's perfect.
No, okay.
That works out so well. We're coming,
yeah, we'll do that.
We're coming right up to Valentine's, so we will have to do a top 5
Jeff
rom-com.
Is coming.
And we
Yeah,
will
I'm
work
down.
that out.
I love rom-coms.
We would get him on for the rom-coms. How about that? We will see about getting
Let's go,
Tony
Will.
back.
I'm down.
I mean, hell, Brent, you want to jump on the rom-com train?
No,
No.
nothing about rom-com interests me.
But you know what? You could bring up Deadpool because Deadpool is a romantic comedy.
That is definitely a romantic.
Okay.
Stop
Well,
taking stuff off my list.
we're going to come back. We might all have that on the list. We're going to change the format for that because we was bumping heads all the time. But we want to thank you for enjoying this. We hope you've learned something and gained something. And make sure that you click that like button, click that subscribe button. It actually helps us out a whole lot. And if you click the little bell notification, you'll be reminded every time new content goes up on the site. If you are listening to this only, we thank you for listening through your podcast service of choice, be it Anchor FM /Grown A Geeks, or maybe you were checking out Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Breaker FM, any variety of podcast services you can find. Look for Grown A Geeks. I want to thank everybody who was with me here tonight. I want to thank Brent, Denisha, Will, and Jeff. Everybody had some great points to bring in, and they kept me a little quieter than normal. Right. I'm air quoting for those of you who can't see. A little quieter than normal. There was a lot to say for this episode. So maybe we'll come back and do a part 2, depending, because it's kind of the mid-season. But we thank you for watching this. You all be safe, love each other, wear your masks, and we thank you. We are out of here. Peace.